The Council of Worlds. In a distant corner of the galaxy, where stars twinkled like diamonds against a velvet backdrop, lay the Council of Worlds, a grand assembly hall that served as a beacon of unity among countless alien species. The chamber was vast, its crystalline dome refracting light into a mesmerizing spectrum that danced across the faces of delegates from various planets. Yet today, an air of unease permeated the room, overshadowing its usual splendor. At the forefront stood Commander Felix Hargrove, humanity's representative. His uniform was crisp, devoid of embellishments, embodying a stark contrast to the ornate attire worn by many alien delegates. Felix's steel-blue eyes scanned the assembly, taking in the diverse forms gathered before him, tentacled beings, feathered creatures, and those with shimmering scales, all united in their apprehension. The atmosphere grew thick with tension as the leader of the Galactic Council, an imposing figure with iridescent wings and a voice that resonated like thunder, called for order. "We convene today not for celebration but for grave deliberation," she announced, her tone grave. "The Stellar Empire has requested an emergency session." A murmur rippled through the crowd as holographic displays flickered to life. The image of High Commander Varek appeared, a towering figure with metallic skin and four piercing red eyes that seemed to bore into each delegate's soul. His presence commanded attention, and silence fell over the chamber. "For 3 millennia," Varek began, his voice low and rumbling like distant thunder, "this council has operated under the illusion that peace is eternal. Today, I declare that peace is over." Gasps echoed through the hall as delegates exchanged anxious glances. Felix felt his heart race at Varek's declaration. The implications were dire. War could unravel everything they had worked for over countless generations. Yet he remained composed, knowing that panic would only exacerbate their predicament. "You humans," Varek continued, his voice dripping with disdain. "You have hidden behind treaties while enjoying protection from greater species. You are weak, primitive, and you pose a threat to our stability." Felix's brow furrowed as he processed Varek's words. The accusation hung heavy in the air like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. He could sense Lieutenant Mira Solis beside him tense up, her fingers twitched nervously at her side. "High Commander," Felix replied smoothly, his voice steady despite the chaos brewing around him. "Your declaration is bold indeed. But are you certain this is the stage for such theatrics?" Varek's hologram flickered with irritation as he leaned forward menacingly. "This is not theatrics, this is reality," he roared. "We demand your unconditional surrender." The room erupted into chaos, delegates shouting in their native tongues while others huddled together in fear. Amidst this turmoil, Felix felt an unexpected urge to laugh. It bubbled up within him like a spring breaking free from winter's grasp. "Do you dare mock us?" Varek thundered again, rage evident in his tone. Felix straightened his posture and met Varek's gaze with unwavering confidence. "No, High Commander," he said calmly. "I am not mocking you. I find it amusing how confidently you underestimate us." The chamber fell silent once more as delegates turned their attention back to Felix, their expressions a mix of disbelief and intrigue. Varek's hologram flickered again as if struggling to comprehend Felix's audacity. "You think this is a game?" Varek spat back incredulously. "Not at all," Felix replied with a slight smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "But perhaps it's time we remind you that humanity has faced far worse than mere threats." As he spoke these words, Felix felt a surge of determination course through him, a reminder that humanity had always thrived in adversity. He glanced at Mira, who met his gaze with newfound resolve. The council chamber buzzed with whispers and speculation about how humanity would respond to this unprecedented challenge. Would they cower in fear or rise to meet it head-on? Felix knew they had no choice but to fight back, not just for themselves but for all those who believed in unity among species. As he prepared to address the council once more, he realized that laughter might just be humanity's greatest weapon against despair. With newfound purpose igniting within him like a star born anew, Felix stepped forward once more into the fray, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in this cosmic game of survival where laughter might be their most potent ally against impending doom. The unexpected response. The atmosphere in the council chamber was thick with tension, the echoes of High Commander Varek's declaration still reverberating in the minds of the delegates. Commander Felix Hargrove stood at the forefront, his heart racing as he processed the implications of what had just transpired. Beside him, Lieutenant Mira Solis maintained her composure, though Felix could see the flicker of anxiety in her eyes. As the delegates began to murmur among themselves, Felix raised a hand to call for silence. The room gradually quieted, all eyes turning toward him. He took a deep breath, steadying himself before addressing the assembly. "Esteemed members of the council," he began, his voice firm yet calm. "We stand on the precipice of a decision that could alter the course of our history. The Stellar Empire may believe they can intimidate us into submission, but we must not yield to fear." A ripple of agreement spread through some factions while others remained skeptical. Felix could sense that not everyone shared his confidence. He continued, "We are not alone in this galaxy. We have allies, friends who believe in our cause and share our vision for peace." Mira leaned closer to Felix, whispering urgently, "What's our plan? We can't just stand here and hope for support." Felix nodded, acknowledging her concern. "We need to reach out to our allies immediately. I want you to contact Ambassador Lyra Khan from Vespera and Captain Jax Mercer from the Terran fleet. They need to be informed about Varek's threats." Mira quickly activated her communicator, her fingers flying over the controls as she sent messages to their allies. Meanwhile, Felix turned back to address the council once again. "Let us remember that humanity has faced adversity before," he said passionately. "We have risen from ashes time and again. This is no different. We will respond with strength and unity." As Felix spoke, representatives from various species exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement while others remained uncertain. The insectoid leader of another faction finally rose to speak. "Commander Hargrove," she began in a voice that resonated like a gentle breeze, "while your words are inspiring, we must consider the consequences of defiance against the Stellar Empire. They are powerful and ruthless." Felix felt a surge of frustration but kept his composure. "And what do you propose? That we submit without a fight? That we allow them to dictate our fate? We must show them that we will not be cowed by threats." The insectoid leader hesitated before nodding slowly. "Perhaps you are right. But we must act wisely." Just then, Mira interrupted with urgency in her voice. "Commander, I've received responses from both Ambassador Khan and Captain Mercer." She paused for a moment to collect her thoughts before continuing. "Ambassador Khan is gathering support from other factions on Vespera, while Captain Mercer is preparing his fleet for potential engagement." Felix felt a spark of hope ignite within him at this news. "Excellent. We need to coordinate our efforts and present a united front against Varek's aggression." As discussions continued among the delegates, Felix and Mira worked diligently to strategize their next steps. They drafted messages outlining their intentions and shared plans for defense and alliance building. Meanwhile, across the galaxy on Vespera, Ambassador Lyra Khan was busy rallying support among her fellow delegates. Her sleek figure moved gracefully through the ornate halls of her planet's capital as she spoke passionately about the importance of unity against tyranny. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions," Lyra declared during an emergency assembly of Vespera's council members. "The Stellar Empire's threats are not just aimed at humanity, they seek to undermine all of us who value freedom and cooperation." Her words resonated deeply with many present. Murmurs of agreement filled the air as delegates exchanged determined glances. "We must stand together," Lyra continued fervently. "If we allow one species to be subjugated, it sets a dangerous precedent for us all." Meanwhile, Captain Jax Mercer aboard his flagship, the Resolute, was preparing his crew for potential conflict. The atmosphere on the bridge was tense as officers scurried about relaying orders and checking systems. "Captain," his first officer reported urgently, "we've received word from Commander Hargrove regarding the situation with the Stellar Empire. They're preparing for possible engagement." Jax clenched his fists at his sides, feeling adrenaline surge through him at the thought of battle. "Prepare our fleet for deployment," he commanded decisively. "We won't let them intimidate us or our allies." As preparations unfolded on both Vespera and aboard the Resolute, Felix and Mira continued their discussions with other council members back on Earth. "Time is of the essence," Felix stated firmly as they reviewed their strategy once more. "We need to send out diplomatic envoys and ensure that every ally knows what is at stake here." Mira nodded in agreement as she compiled lists of potential allies who could be contacted quickly. "Let's also prepare a public statement," she suggested thoughtfully. "If we can rally support from our own citizens and those across allied worlds, it might strengthen our position even further." Felix smiled appreciatively at Mira's insight. "A brilliant idea. Let's draft something that emphasizes our commitment to peace while also showcasing our readiness to defend ourselves if necessary." As they worked tirelessly through the night drafting messages and coordinating plans with their allies, hope began to take root amidst uncertainty. On distant worlds across the galaxy, whispers began to spread about humanity's resolve, a determination not just to survive but thrive against overwhelming odds. Back on Earth, news outlets buzzed with reports about the impending conflict with the Stellar Empire as citizens rallied behind their leaders' calls for unity. Felix knew that this was only the beginning. They would face challenges ahead but also opportunities for growth and cooperation among species who believed in something greater than themselves. As dawn broke over Earth's horizon, a new day filled with promise, Felix felt invigorated by what lay ahead, a chance not only for survival but also for forging lasting bonds among civilizations united against tyranny. With renewed determination fueling their efforts, Felix Hargrove and his team prepared themselves for whatever challenges awaited them in this unfolding saga, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience in times of crisis where laughter might just become their most powerful weapon against despair. The first encounter. As the Galactic Council's tumultuous session ended, the delegates dispersed, each grappling with the implications of the Stellar Empire's declaration. Commander Felix Hargrove and Lieutenant Mira Solis remained behind, their minds racing with the urgency of their next steps. The room, once filled with vibrant discussions, now echoed with the silence of uncertainty. Preparing for conflict. Felix leaned against the polished table, his fingers tracing the cool surface as he contemplated their strategy. "We need to be prepared for anything," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling in his mind. "The Stellar Empire won't wait for us to gather our forces." Mira nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I'll coordinate with Captain Jax Mercer and ensure that our fleet is ready for rapid deployment. We need to establish a defensive perimeter around Earth and its colonies." Felix appreciated Mira's quick thinking. "Good. And let's not forget to reach out to our allies. We need every ship and soldier we can muster." As they finalized their plans, a sense of determination began to replace their initial fear. They were not alone. Humanity had faced challenges before and emerged stronger each time. On board the Resolute. Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, Captain Jax Mercer stood on the bridge, his crew bustling around him as they prepared for potential conflict. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation as they awaited orders from Commander Hargrove. "Captain," his first officer reported, "all systems are operational, and we're ready for immediate deployment." Jax nodded, feeling a rush of adrenaline course through him. "Good. Let's ensure our weapons are primed and our shields are at maximum capacity. If the Stellar Empire wants a fight, we'll give them one." As he surveyed the bridge crew, each member focused and determined, Jax felt a surge of pride. They were a family forged in adversity, and he knew they would stand together against any threat. The reconnaissance mission. Hours later, Felix received word that Jax was leading a reconnaissance mission to gather intelligence on the Stellar Empire's fleet movements. The urgency of the situation demanded swift action. They needed to understand their enemy's capabilities before engaging in direct conflict. "Lieutenant Solis," Felix called out as Mira entered his office. "Prepare a shuttle for me. I'm heading to the Resolute to join Captain Mercer on this mission." Mira raised an eyebrow but quickly nodded in agreement. "Understood, Commander. I'll have everything ready for your departure." As Felix made his way to the hangar bay, he felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was unlike any diplomatic mission he had undertaken before. This time, lives were at stake. The launch. Once aboard the Resolute, Felix found Jax reviewing tactical displays on the main screen. The ship hummed with energy as it prepared for launch. "Commander Hargrove," Jax greeted him with a firm handshake. "Glad you could join us." "Wouldn't miss it for the world," Felix replied with a determined smile. "All right, team," Jax announced to his crew as they gathered around him. "We're heading into enemy territory to gather intel on the Stellar Empire's fleet movements. Remember, our goal is to observe and report back without engaging unless absolutely necessary." With that, the Resolute launched into space, its engines roaring as it broke free from Earth's atmosphere. The stars stretched out before them like an endless sea of possibilities. The first encounter. As they approached the coordinates where intelligence indicated a Stellar Empire fleet was stationed, tension filled the air on the Resolute. The crew worked diligently at their stations while Felix and Jax monitored their progress from the command center. "Stealth mode engaged," Jax said as he glanced at Felix. "We'll slip in undetected and gather what we can." Felix nodded appreciatively. Jax was an experienced captain who understood the importance of caution in this precarious situation. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge as sensors detected movement ahead. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing several massive ships belonging to the Stellar Empire looming ominously in the darkness. "Captain," an ensign shouted from her station. "We've been detected. They're powering up weapons." Jax's expression hardened as he quickly assessed their options. "All hands brace for evasive maneuvers. Prepare to engage shields." Felix felt his heart race as he gripped the edge of the console tightly. They had come too far to turn back now. They needed this information. A desperate escape. The Resolute shook violently as enemy fire erupted around them, brilliant flashes illuminating the void of space like fireworks gone awry. Jax barked orders at his crew while deftly maneuvering their ship through incoming blasts. "Return fire," he commanded fiercely, determination etched across his features. Felix watched in awe as Jax expertly navigated through enemy fire while returning shots that lit up the darkness like stars being born anew. But even with their best efforts, they were outnumbered. "We can't hold them off forever," Felix shouted over the din of alarms and explosions. "We need to get out of here." Jax replied grimly as he executed another evasive maneuver that sent them spiraling away from danger. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Myra's voice crackled through Felix's communicator. "Commander, we've received word from our allies. They're mobilizing forces to assist us." Felix felt a surge of hope wash over him at her words. "Then let's make our escape. Set course for Earth." With renewed vigor, Jax pushed the Resolute to its limits, weaving through enemy fire as they made their way back toward safety. Regrouping. Once safely back within Earth's orbit, Felix and Jax convened with Mira and other key officers aboard the Resolute. They gathered around a holographic display showing data collected during their reconnaissance mission. "What did we learn?" Felix asked eagerly. Jax pointed at various markers on the display representing enemy ships. "They have a significant presence near our colonies, far more than we anticipated." Mira frowned as she examined the data closely. If we engage them head-on without reinforcements from our allies, we risk losing everything. Felix nodded thoughtfully. This was not just about survival but also about ensuring peace across galaxies. We need a plan, he said decisively. Let's prepare for negotiations with our allies while simultaneously fortifying our defenses. As discussions continued late into the night aboard the Resolute, Felix felt a sense of camaraderie among his crew, a bond forged through shared purpose and determination. In that moment, amidst uncertainty and chaos surrounding them, one thing became clear: humanity would not back down easily against tyranny. They would fight tooth and nail for their future, and perhaps even find strength in laughter along the way as they faced whatever challenges lay ahead in this cosmic struggle against oppression where ingenuity might just prove more powerful than brute force alone. Unity in diversity. The atmosphere aboard the Resolute was thick with anticipation as Captain Jax Mercer and Commander Felix Hargrove gathered their officers to discuss their next steps. The recent skirmish with the Stellar Empire had left them shaken but more determined than ever. They understood that the stakes were high, and the galaxy was watching. Rallying allies. "All right, team," Jax began, his voice steady and authoritative. "We've seen what the Stellar Empire is capable of. We need to rally our allies and prepare for a united front. We can't face this threat alone." Felix nodded in agreement, his steel-gray eyes scanning the faces of his crew. "We must reach out to every faction willing to stand with us. This is not just about Earth, it's about preserving peace across the galaxy." Lieutenant Nadia Aker, a bright young officer known for her strategic mind, spoke up. "I suggest we send envoys to the Vesperan Council and the Zilthar Confederacy first. They have strong military capabilities and might be persuaded to join our cause." Jax smiled at Nadia's suggestion. "Good thinking. Let's prioritize those contacts." He turned to Mira, who had been diligently working on her terminal. "Mira, can you draft messages for our allies? We need to convey the urgency of our situation." Mira nodded, her fingers flying over the screen as she began composing messages that would hopefully inspire their allies to act quickly. The Vesperan Council. Meanwhile, on Vespera, Ambassador Lyra Khan convened an emergency session of her council. The ornate chamber was filled with representatives from various species, each one anxious about the implications of the Stellar Empire's aggression. "Esteemed delegates," Lyra began, her voice calm yet firm. "We face a grave threat not just to humanity but to all of us who cherish peace and cooperation in this galaxy. The Stellar Empire seeks to impose its will upon us, and we must respond with unity." A representative from a neighboring planet raised a tentacled appendage in protest. "But what can we do? The Stellar Empire is powerful. They have already declared war." Lyra stepped forward, her gaze steady. "We must not underestimate our strength when we stand together. If we allow fear to dictate our actions, we will lose everything we hold dear." The murmurs of dissent slowly faded as Lyra's words resonated with many present. One by one, delegates began to nod in agreement. "We will support humanity," declared a Zilthar representative. "We cannot let tyranny prevail." A call for unity. Back on the Resolute, Felix and Jax received news that their calls for unity were being met with enthusiasm among their allies. "Captain," Mira announced excitedly as she entered the command center. "Ambassador Khan has confirmed Vespera's support. They're sending ships to assist us." Felix felt a surge of hope at this news. "That's excellent. And what about the Zilthar Confederacy?" "They're also on board," Mira replied, her eyes shining with determination. "They've pledged their fleet and resources to our cause." Jax turned to his crew, a fierce determination igniting within him. "This is it. We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every species that values freedom and cooperation." As they prepared for the upcoming battle, Felix felt a sense of camaraderie growing among the crew members, a bond forged through shared purpose and determination. The strategy meeting. Days passed as they worked tirelessly to coordinate their forces with their allies. A strategy meeting was held aboard the Resolute where representatives from Vespera and Zilthar joined Felix and Jax. "Thank you all for coming," Felix began as he surveyed the room filled with diverse beings, each one representing their unique cultures and strengths. "We face a formidable enemy in the Stellar Empire," Jax added. "But together, we can turn the tide in this conflict." Lyra Khan spoke next, her voice steady and resolute. "Our combined fleets will create a formidable force against the Stellar Empire's aggression. However, we must also focus on intelligence gathering. Understanding their movements will be crucial." A Zilthar commander chimed in, his voice deep and resonant. "We have advanced technology that can help us track enemy ships more effectively. We'll share our resources with your fleet." Felix felt a wave of gratitude wash over him at this display of unity among species that had once been strangers but were now allies bound by a common goal. Preparing for battle. As preparations continued, Felix took time to reflect on how far they had come since Varek's declaration of war. What had begun as an overwhelming threat had transformed into an opportunity for cooperation among diverse species. In the days leading up to the battle, Felix spent time with his crew, sharing stories and laughter during brief moments of respite amidst their preparations. One evening, as they gathered in the mess hall for dinner, Jax raised his glass in a toast. "To our allies. May we fight together as one." Cheers echoed through the room as glasses clinked together, a momentary reprieve from the weight of what lay ahead. The calm before the storm. As they approached the day of reckoning, Felix stood on the bridge of the Resolute, gazing out at the stars twinkling against the vastness of space. He felt a sense of purpose swelling within him, a reminder that humanity had always thrived in adversity. They were resilient beings capable of great ingenuity when faced with challenges. Mira joined him at the viewport, her expression contemplative. "Do you think we can really win this fight?" Felix turned to her, his eyes reflecting determination. "We have something they don't, unity among diverse species who believe in something greater than themselves." As dawn broke over Earth's horizon, a new day filled with promise, Felix felt invigorated by what lay ahead, a chance not only for survival but also for forging lasting bonds among civilizations united against tyranny. With renewed determination fueling their efforts, Felix Hargrove and his team prepared themselves for whatever challenges awaited them in this unfolding saga, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience in times of crisis where laughter might just become their most powerful weapon against despair. In that moment of reflection aboard the Resolute, Felix knew they were ready not just to fight but also to inspire hope across galaxies where unity could triumph over oppression if only they dared to believe it was possible. The final showdown. As the sun rose over Earth, casting a warm glow across the vast expanse of space, anticipation hung thick in the air aboard the Resolute. Commander Felix Hargrove stood on the bridge, surrounded by his crew and representatives from their allied factions. They had gathered for one purpose, to confront the Stellar Empire and defend their way of life. The calm before the storm. Felix took a moment to absorb the scene around him. The bridge buzzed with activity, officers checked their stations, strategizing and preparing for what lay ahead. Lieutenant Nadia Aker was at her console, her fingers flying over controls as she monitored fleet movements. Captain Jax Mercer stood at the helm, his expression a mix of determination and focus. "Status report," Felix called out, his voice steady. "Vesperan and Zilthar fleets are in position," Nadia replied without looking up. "They're ready to engage on your command." "Excellent," Jax said, turning to Felix. "We've trained for this moment. Let's show them what we're made of." Felix nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. "We will fight not just for ourselves but for every species that values freedom and cooperation. This is our moment. The enemy approaches." As they prepared for battle, sensors detected movement in the distance. The Stellar Empire's fleet was approaching, a massive armada of ships glimmering ominously against the backdrop of stars. The sight sent a shiver down Felix's spine. This was it, the culmination of their efforts. "Commander," Nadia said urgently, "the enemy fleet is on an intercept course. They're deploying fighters." Felix felt his heart race as he surveyed the tactical display. "All hands, prepare for engagement. Activate shields and arm weapons." The crew sprang into action, adrenaline pumping through their veins as they readied themselves for the fight ahead. Felix took a deep breath, centering himself as he focused on the task at hand. A battle like no other. As the enemy ships closed in, Felix felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The stakes were high. Failure meant not just loss but subjugation under the Stellar Empire's rule. He glanced at Jax, who met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "Let's show them what humanity can do," Jax said, determination etched on his face. With that, the battle commenced. A cacophony of explosions and laser fire erupted around them as ships engaged in a fierce struggle for survival. Felix felt the ship lurch as enemy fire struck their shields, but they held firm. "Return fire," Jax commanded, his voice steady amidst the chaos. Felix watched as beams of energy shot from the Resolute, striking enemy vessels with precision. The crew worked seamlessly together, each member playing their part in this high-stakes dance of war. Allies unite. Meanwhile, Allied ships from Vespera and Zilthar joined the fray, forming a united front against the Stellar Empire. Felix felt a surge of pride as he witnessed their courage, each ship representing not just military might but a collective hope for peace. "Look at them go!" Nadia exclaimed as she monitored their movements on her console. "They're holding their own." Felix nodded, feeling a sense of camaraderie swell within him. They were all fighting for something greater than themselves, a shared vision of freedom and unity against tyranny. As enemy fighters swarmed around the Resolute, Jax maneuvered deftly through the chaos, evading incoming fire while returning shots with deadly accuracy. The bridge was alive with energy, shouts of encouragement mixed with tactical commands filled the air. A turning point. Just when it seemed like they might gain an upper hand, a massive flagship emerged from the Stellar Empire's ranks, a behemoth that dwarfed everything around it. Its hull shimmered ominously as it unleashed a barrage of fire upon their forces. "Commander!" Nadia shouted over the din, "that ship is heavily armed. We need to take it out before it decimates our fleet." Felix felt a chill run down his spine as he assessed the situation. "We need to coordinate our attacks with our allies," he said decisively. "If we strike together, we can overwhelm it." Jax nodded in agreement. "Let's rally our forces. We'll focus all firepower on that flagship." As they relayed commands to their allies, Felix felt hope ignite within him, a flicker that grew brighter with each passing moment as they prepared for one final push against their formidable foe. The final assault. With renewed determination fueling their efforts, the Resolute led the charge alongside its allies toward the flagship. Beams of energy lit up space as they unleashed everything they had upon it, lasers slicing through the void like lightning bolts. "Now!" Jax shouted as they closed in on their target. The combined forces surged forward in unison, a symphony of destruction aimed at bringing down their common enemy. Felix felt exhilaration surge through him as they pressed onward, refusing to back down in the face of overwhelming odds. Just when it seemed like victory was within reach, an explosion rocked the Resolute, sending shockwaves through the ship as alarms blared around them. "Damage report!" Felix shouted urgently. "We've lost power to aft shields." Nadia replied frantically. "We need to stabilize or we'll be sitting ducks." A moment of desperation. In that moment of desperation, Felix felt time slow down, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily upon him. He glanced at Jax, who was working tirelessly at his station to regain control amid chaos. Hold steady. Jax commanded fiercely. We can't give up now. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Felix made a decision, one that could change everything. I'll lead a boarding party onto that flagship, he declared resolutely. What? Are you insane? Nadia exclaimed incredulously. No, Felix replied firmly. If we can disable their command center from within, we might turn this battle in our favor. Jax met his gaze with understanding and respect. I'm coming with you, he said without hesitation. Felix nodded gratefully. Together they would face whatever awaited them aboard that massive ship, united by purpose and determination. Boarding the flagship. With a small team assembled and ready to board via shuttlecraft, Felix felt both excitement and trepidation wash over him as they prepared to infiltrate enemy territory. As they blasted away from the Resolute, Felix glanced back at his ship, the heart of humanity's fight against oppression, and steeled himself for what lay ahead. Inside the shuttlecraft's cramped confines, tension hung thick in the air as they approached their target, the flagship looming large against the starry backdrop like an ominous shadow waiting to swallow them whole. Remember, Jax said quietly as they neared docking bay doors on the flagship's hull. We stick together no matter what. Felix nodded resolutely. This was it, the moment where courage would define them all in this battle for survival against tyranny, where laughter might just become humanity's most powerful weapon against despair if only they dared believe it was possible. Even amid chaos unfolding around them in this cosmic struggle for freedom across galaxies, united by shared purpose and determination against oppression, standing firm together despite overwhelming odds awaiting them inside those dark corridors. Filled with uncertainty yet also hope shining bright like stars guiding them forward into destiny unknown ahead.